But how can you release a romantic relationship when you know it's time? I'm speaking to women now. Women, we always know. Women, in our own intuition, we always know when it's not working. Women, we always know that it's time to end or release that relationship. Somebody told me, well, I don't want to hurt his feelings. I said, but you're hurting yourself. You're unhappy. You're miserable. You're not married. You've been with him for 9 years. You want to be married. So you're hurting yourself. So these are some signs, ladies, that if you're in a romantic relationship, and gentlemen, we put too much pressure on romantic relationships. It has to make me happy. It has to fulfill me. And all of that's important, but you go to the relationship as much as possible with the full cup. That doesn't mean that you're independent. Did you know that they're calling it the gray divorce? That more people in their 60s and 70s, gray hair, are getting divorced than any other age group. 60s and 70s, and the reasons why are, wow, I don't know how much life I have to live, but I want to live it authentically and I want to live it fully and I want to be happy. So these are some signs. If you're in a romantic relationship, you already know. If you know, you know. You no longer feel emotionally close or supported to that person. That you can't really share your real self, your authentic self. You can't really share your feelings, and you feel like the conversations are forced, kind of surface. Y'all know what I'm talking about, shallow and tense, and you really dread seeing or talking to your partner when you used to look forward to, because you kind of feel like you're walking on eggshells. Sounds like codependency to me. I've been in this situation when I'm about to share next. You feel lonelier. Did I get that out? In the relationships than you were alone. These are all signs that thank God for what the relationship was, what it brought to me, but you deserve the best. And really, you're not being authentically real with that other person by allowing him or her to find their person. All right. You may feel like if one person is doing most of the emotional or practical work, I always tell men, women, we read more, we study more, we go to more seminars. I share with my male clients. If you know all of the stats in football and all of the stats in basketball, you can know your woman. And so if you feel like you're the one that says, let's get help, let's do this, or if your partner dismisses your feelings or boundaries, OMG, I've heard, okay, guys, I love you, but I've heard women say, I've heard men say, she's too emotional. Is she too emotional, or do you need to learn how to really get in touch with your own emotions? Wow. Or if there are no boundaries, boundaries might be you work all day and then you have to come home and do all the work and your partner is asleep, or you're taking on the whole financial responsibility and your partner is staying out late, or your partner won't keep a job. I know of many situations like that, and certainly not dogging men, but I know some situations where the man on every job he gets, it's the supervisor, it's the co-workers, it's the environment. And his wife, his girlfriend, not even his wife, his girlfriend has to work two jobs. So that is a lack of respect and honored. And I'm telling you something, if you are not being respected and honored, would you say that it is certainly time for you to release that relationship? If there's been a lot of infidelity, lying, manipulation that has not been addressed or repaired, this is what I tell couples. Men say, well, I told him I'm sorry when it comes to infidelity. How long is it going to take? And I always tell men, as long as it takes. It may have taken you just a couple of nights to destroy trust, but it takes a while for a woman to openly trust again. So notice I said if there's been a lot of lying, manipulation, and infidelity that is not being addressed, my question to you is, what is it in you? How do you see yourself? What is your self-image of yourself for you to remain in that relationship where lying, infidelity, and manipulation has not been addressed? It's time to release, let go, and create a new life. If you don't feel emotionally and physically safe with your partner, you know what time that is. If you feel like that you have to earn love, that you don't deserve it. If you guys have different goals, values, or visions about the future that no longer align, that happens. About the kids, about marriage, about lifestyle. If you want to be married and he don't want to be married, he has a right, but you also have a right to say, I no longer want to give my essence and my presence in this relationship and not be married. If your goal is to be an entrepreneur, and maybe if his goal is to be an entrepreneur, and you want to work a 9 to 5, you don't understand entrepreneurship, maybe your visions and your future no longer align. If he wants kids, but you don't want any children, y'all not married, your future no longer aligns. And so in situations like that, you really want both people to really be happy. I was talking to a client the other day. If you want to be married and you are in a relationship with a man who does not want to be married, what are you doing? You deserve, just like he deserves, to have the kind of relationship that he wants. And you can't see a shared future that feels fulfilling for both of you. Talk it out and then make a decision. Wow, this was great, but this relationship really needs to be released. All right, I'm just going through quickly. These are all signs the universe is screaming to you. If every disagreement turns into a major fight or cold silence. Y'all know what cold silence is, don't you? That's what I used to do. He would say, you all right? I said, mm-hmm. Everything okay? Sure. That's cold silence. I've known couples where one partner didn't even speak to the other partner. That's manipulation for weeks. And he would say, Constance, I've given her everything. She has $1 million home. She has this. She has that. And I said, sir, he was a doctor. I said, Doc, it's really nothing you could do to make her happy because that has to come from the inside out. Okay. Important issues just never get resolved. They just keep resurfacing. I always say, when you don't deal with your stuff is going to deal with you. You and your partner refuse to communicate or compromise. And you already know in any relationship, there has to be compromise. It's my way or the highway. You're going to be by yourself. So these are major life issues. And it is a difficult decision to make. But why would you spend your life being unhappy? All right, so this is the mental and the physical well-being. We're talking about a romantic relationship. The relationship drains your energy and your self-esteem. If you're always being put down, you need to lose weight. Look at this house. What's wrong with you? How come you can't do anything right? Who wants to be in an emotionally abusive relationship? I was talking to a couple and the man was upset because his wife had gained weight. I said, but she just had three of your children back to back, right? Yes. And she's working full time, right? Yes. And her body hasn't fully recovered. See, he goes to the gym every day, but he was being critical of her. And so if you are in a relationship that drains your energy, that puts you down, that decreases your self-esteem, the answer is why. Now, let me make a statement. I never tell a woman to leave her husband. I never tell a man to leave his wife. So I'm really talking to people who are not married. But even if you are married, when I did a couples counseling, I would always say, would God want you in an emotional and physically abusive relationship? I'm not going to go there. Uh, and most of the time, you feel anxious, sad, and just out of it because of the relationships. Uh, your friends and your family, they see it, they see what's happening, and they are concerned about you. And this is the most important one. Ladies, our intuition. A woman always knows. My daddy used to say, trying to put a peg into a round circle, it ain't gonna work. Just your gut feeling knows that something isn't right. You try communicating, working on the relationship, and authenticity is the highest vibration. And when you are in something that is not bringing you life, I'm not saying everything got to be perfect in the relationship. That ain't happening. I'm not saying that your partner don't have faults. I hadn't said any of that. But in your intuition, the spirit is always speaking. It is not an easy choice. You know in your gut when it's time to release that relationship. So if you are just feeling just like overly responsible for your partner's well-being and his choices. You don't know what kind of mood he or she is going to be in. One man told me, he said, I don't never know who's going to meet me at the door, Constance. Okay, that if you feel guilty about focusing in on yourself, and the real truth is you lost your identity because you are so immersed in that relationship. Your own sense of self worth revolves around your partner. His or her goals, his or her friends, and their interests. And so you don't set boundaries. You don't know how to say no because I've heard a lot of people say, I don't want to rock the boat. And you've heard me say, if you have any friendship or relationship where you cannot say no, if you have any friendship or relationship where you cannot express how you feel, if you have any friendship, relationship where you can't have the hard conversations, that's a sign. You don't even remember who you are anymore because all of your attention has gone on that relationship. You kind of feel like you become a caretaker, rescuing your partner. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting ready to make an announcement. Drum roll, please. You cannot fix your partner. Drum roll, Pete. Please, I got that. You cannot change your partner. If your partner is suffering from any addiction, any unresolved childhood stuff, any anger or rage, you cannot fix him or her. That person has to make the decision that I want help. And you can make the decision, wow, I've done my best in this relationship, and it's time for me to release and move on. And sometimes the reason that people don't move on is just like a fear of abandonment. So you stay in it and you don't really bring stuff up to avoid any kind of conflict. And so you stay in unhealthy situations to avoid being alone. OMG, I could stay on that forever. And so you stay in unhealthy situations. And they done studies of women who have stayed in toxic relationships and physically what it does to your heart, your body, your cells, just your inner physical being, not to mention the emotional part. Uh, and then lastly, I got so much I want to say is the person is just too dependent on you for emotional stability and self-worth. You're their God. You're their it girl. You're the it man. They come to you for everything. You feel sad. You can't be your full self. I remember a one couple, and the man, he finished high school, but she wanted to go to college. And he was so insecure. You don't need to go up there. And who's going to be looking at you? And she's like, I'm going to be in class. So another person's insecurity really hindering, and slowing you down. I always say that your purpose and destiny should never be hindered, slowed down, or diminished by another person. You choose. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been a real and raw show. Take a look at your life. Ask the Holy Spirit to not only show you, you already know in the area of family, in the area of friendship, in the area of a romantic love relationship. We're not mad at these people. We're not blaming them, but we have awakened to who we are. We have recognized our own selves. We are beginning to love ourselves. We are beginning to accept ourselves. We are at a different level. We are moving into a different version. And because we are, when you move to a higher version, when you move to a different level, your choices change. When you love yourself, you're not going to stay in abusive, toxic relationships. When you love yourself, you're going to set boundaries. When you love yourself, you're going to understand that our relationships are not for a lifetime. When you love and care for yourself and you are becoming authentic, you're walking in your authenticity, which is the highest vibration, which says, this is who I am. And when you know who you are, there are just certain things that you cannot accept. If you want to be married and this man does not want to be married, you have a right to say, this is what I want. I'm not trying to make you want to be married. but I'm too authentic with my own self. I'm too in touch with my own needs not to walk fully in that. Love yourself enough to release these toxic relationships, these wounded relationships, these hurting people, hurt people, hurt people. And I had a couple, this is the last thing I'm going to say. And she was coming to me for coaching. And she asked me up front, she said, now, after I coached with you, am I going to leave my husband? I said, I can't answer that question. I said, all I can say is when you change, the relationship would change. She said, what do you mean? When you change on the inside, your behavior is going to change. Your thinking is going to change. Your responses are going to change. So usually the relationship shifts because he or she sees another person. And she said, give my coaching sessions to somebody else. She said, because I know if I get healed and I change, that my husband would leave me. And I'm going to stay in this relationship, even though I know it's not good for me. And I said, okay. So anybody who is interested in changing relationships and friendship, contact me for a complimentary 20-minute coaching discovery call. If you know you're ready to move out of a romantic relationship before the end of the year, guys, I wrote a book on it, How to Attract and Manifest Genuine Love. And the first part of that book delves in healing yourself. You never choose any higher than how you see yourself. If you have estrangement in your family, if you're mad at your siblings, at your mama, at your daddy, if you are estranged from your family and you need help, you're ready for help to heal, forgive, and release that pain, let's do a discovery call. This has been a powerful show, everybody. I tell you what, relationships are of God, but you want to choose healthy, healing, flowing, abundant relationships. I want you to share this with your friends, with your girlfriends, guys. Share it with your bros. Share it with your coworkers because we want to be healed. God created us to live life and live it more abundantly. This is Constance Arnold, everybody. I want you to make a decision to really create and manifest a great week.